In this video, we will be reviewing the Axis Neural EA for MT5 by Mr. Enrique Nguix. Stick around to the end to see if this is a real EA, worth your time, or just another MQL5 scam. This video is sponsored by Prosperity Algo and our free Golden Time Bomb Expert Advisor. Do you want to make 100+% annual returns through automating the London breakout and the opening range breakout? Then click the link in the description. So this developer has created quite a few different EAs in the marketplace, but for this particular one, we're not getting a ton of insights as to how it actually runs. So he's not mentioning the exact strategy it's taking. We simply know that it trades the Euro USD, GBP USD, and Aussie Dollar USD simultaneously. And it has historically targeted monthly performance of around 5%, and supposedly it has advanced risk management features. And if we just kind of type through it here, we can see that he's contrasting this to his more premium EAs, saying that this one has less diversification than the other ones, and it uses something called a neural strategy, whatever that means. And it's meant to be, okay, oh, here we go. Let's see, maybe this tells us something. The configuration is loaded with the EA. Okay, it doesn't speak to the exact strategy here. He's showing some fancy optimization, some functionality. He ran some correlation test on Strategy Tester, which is fair. Supposedly it uses neural networks. Oh, here we go. A bit more about the actual strategy. It says that it uses a trend. Oh, so it's a grid-based system. Perfect. At least he's honest about that. So he's saying that it uses a trend-following strategy with a grid, which is likely a Martingale too. And yeah, I think that's that, but at least we now have an idea of how it works. So he says that supposedly it's also using a neural network to complement it, but the main driving feature here is a trend following strategy with a grid. So that gives us something to work with. So now we can actually go over to the live signal here, and this is a $10,000 account. He had yes, it is a $10,000 account, and it's made roughly 1% so far. So it's quite impressive that he's putting in a fairly hefty amount of capital here. He is using low risk because this is a Martingale style system, but he is at least putting enough confidence in it to put a decent amount of money behind a grid, which is quite impressive. And here, if we look at the trading history, we can just kind of ascertain this is definitely a grid, just because so many trades are closing at effectively the same time. And here we can see that this is a grid with significant lot scaling happening. So it goes from 0.1 to 0.5 lots. So classic grid Martingale system to date, but we can now hop into MetaTrader 5, where I've taken the liberty of actually running this on the Euro USD, as well as I believe it should trade some other pairs simultaneously. And as we can see here, it's very much a classic grid Martingale system. Here it's turning $10,000 into around $12,000. And if we look at the back tests here, it's winning around 62% of the time with a slightly positive risk reward. So indicative of how we would typically see with this type of Forex style Martingale type system. Now let's quickly just go through this chart to get a better idea of how it works. And it looks to be, yeah, so classic grid mean reverting system. So he says it's trend following, which is a bit odd in my opinion, because it looks more like a mean reversion system. So when price kind of goes away from the mean, it's just shorting. So yeah, here again, another grid system. The one danger I would say here is what people don't get about grid Martingale systems is the more pairs you trade, it doesn't make it better. It actually makes it worse. Because with a normal style expert advisor or any sort of portfolio, typically diversification is a good thing. But with Martingales, the issue is you only need one long run of losers to blow your entire account. And the more pairs you trade, you linearly increase the odds of having a long run of losers. So that's why when people speak about diversification with Martingales, I always find that kind of funny because you're actually increasing the risk, you're not decreasing the risk. And it's counterintuitive because we're always told diversify. But in this particular setting, it's actually quite a bit more dangerous. So I would venture that this bot is actually probably better than his more diversified bots because he's simply trading less pairs. But even three, particularly US dollar pairs, I would be a bit apprehensive about. Let's go through to see if he has a news filter going on. Okay, so it's clearly a Bollinger Band moving average type setting. I don't see any news filters here. But here the maximum number of grid orders are allowed per symbol, 50. Wow. So you're able to limit the grid too, so there are some risk parameters here too. So honestly, like from what I can see so far, there's nothing wrong with this. It's just a basic Martingale system. But I would be a little bit apprehensive to trade this one because his grids are awfully close together. Like, yeah, that seems like the amount of times we're going into deep grids is not a great sign. Like, and also the fact that he's trading this on US dollar pairs is pretty challenging, particularly that there doesn't appear to be much of a news filter here. Because usually with US dollar pairs, you can have these long trending periods, which make them much harder to trade with a Martingale in a sustainable way. You'll see that most developers who make good Martingale systems usually will trade them on the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar, more like mean reverting style currencies, but particularly trading the Aussie dollar, US dollar, the GBP US dollar with this style of system of frequent short grids is probably quite risky. So I think it would likely be okay for a bit, but I would venture that eventually this will definitely blow your account. So let's just let it run quickly. And I'm not seeing any indicators per se, but I venture they're just hard-coded because he's mentioned Bollinger Bands and EMAs. So yeah, it's a classic grid-based Bollinger Band entry style system using a Martingale style of risk management. Let's go check here the history. It is scaling the lot sizing. He doesn't scale his lots that aggressively. I think he prefers to open more trades than to scale lot size super aggressively. But that being said, it doesn't really matter, right? If you open 20 trades as opposed to scaling lot size more aggressively, it's not as risky, but there's still quite a bit of risk there. So ultimately, this is a basic Martingale style system. You can use it for certain types of prop firm accounts or perhaps on a small account, or if you have an incredibly small starting lot size. But this style of bot is very common. Eventually, it will almost always, like mathematically, it's guaranteed to blow eventually. That could happen in a million years, or it could happen in 5 days, right? You just need to be mindful of that and be very, very careful. But for what he's charging, it's not a bad price. So it's not a scam, it doesn't appear manipulated, it's just a basic Martingale system. So guys, have yourself a great day. Let me know if you have a differing opinion on this, and looking forward to your comments. Bye.